related to members of Congress, and we said incumbents have all the advantage when getting in there. And if you want to beat an incumbent, you really need to catch them in a scandal, to wait them out. It's hard to dislodge an incumbent. But what's important, we mentioned briefly too, and I think we mentioned this in the video, so you should might have this. What's the number one profession of people who end up being members of Congress? Lawyers. Doctors is right there with it, and businessmen are up there. But lawyers make sense. It's the people who understand the language of the law the best, who know how to craft that language. And beyond that, there's some other things that should concern you about the people who run for and hold office. One of the things, the amount of time that they end up working is not at all relatable to average Americans. And here's what you're going to find. These members of Congress who are lawyers and get into Congress, they don't work as much as what you would think. The typical American, what is the average American, like how many days out of the year do they work? 5 out of 7 days. So we got 52 weekends, subtract 104 days from 365, plus a couple weeks of vacation. You're looking at about ballpark 250 work days a year. All right. How many work days do you think members of Congress have per year? If you had to guess. 300, because you would think your lawmaking institution would work a lot. Kaiser thinks 300. You are overstating it. Ah, give me a number. 120. Anybody want to go higher? 200? Ah, you're being too nice. It's about 150 work days a year. Oh, does that kind of... Oh, now here's the interesting thing. Okay, we're going to get to that in a second. The congressmen, though, members of the House and Senate make 174,000 a year, which is a decent salary. However, okay, 174,000. They'll never ask you that on the AP exam, by the way, but people always want to know. All right. The amount of money that these people have when they come into Congress, what do you think the net worth of congressmen usually is? Oh, no, no. I'm just talking about not your campaign finances. What do you think they are worth personally? All right. Now, I want to show you something real fast. You're going to appreciate this, or you're going to be really angry. It's hard to tell. Uh, Net worth. This was last year's Congress. They haven't tallied the numbers for this year because a lot of new people got elected. Mark Warner from Virginia has and this shows you that their net worth fluctuates because people who have money, what do they do with a lot of their money? They invest it. All right. Mark Warner could be worth, when the investments are right, nearly 348 million. That'll get you out of town. This guy from Montana, 189 million. Paul Mitchell, isn't that a hair care guy? No, not the same guy. 200, 200. Oh my gosh, look at this. You go through here and you look at all these people, they're worth a crap ton of money. Mitch McConnell, a paltry 54 million. Wow, is that all? Yeah, poor guy. You keep scrolling through here, and these people are all worth millions and millions of dollars. Wow. I mean, we're not even in the top 50 yet. Oh, the number 50, Lisa Blunt here from Delaware, she's worth a measly $15 million, and she's only a House member. Ha, pshaw. All right. And you keep looking in here, and I mean, you just go through, and they're worth a lot of money. Now, the best part is that you can look up an individual person. Okay. Now, I want to show you one from West Virginia here. Shelley Moore Capito. Yay. All right. One of the things that the law requires, that if you run for Congress, you have to disclose your personal finances. Right? You remember, like, those lists we were talking about? We love to creep on stuff like this. All right. Shelley Moore Capito, and you can see that her is the blue, and she, her investments were a little high in 2017. It's a little down though. She's only worth a couple million. Wow. All right. What a lightweight. Now, here's where things get a little crazy. You can look at their assets and liabilities. Assets are anything that they own. Okay. And here are the assets. Assets, 163 assets totaling. The range is from 1.5 to 5.3 million dollars. Okay. And a lot of them are banking institutions, mutual funds, electronic groups. Now, here's what's concerning. She apparently owns stock in Microsoft and Intel. Okay. And this also tells you if she meets with lobbyists from those companies. Why? Is it significant that she meets with lobbyists from those companies? What do you mean? Keep going with that. Because if they do well, what happens for her? She benefits financially if they do well. Could that affect how she votes on legislation? 100%. Okay. Let's keep scrolling through here, and you see Citigroup not only has lobbyists that connect with her, but they also donated to her campaign. All right. So they mentioned that as well. That did that organization contribute to her campaign? So not only does she benefit from them, but they substantiate her campaign by giving her money. And that's true of others as well. McDonald's, Johnson and Johnson, ExxonMobil, oil and gas, pharmaceuticals, electronic companies, right? Cisco, another electronics manufacturing company, energy corporations. If you are somebody who's running against her or you want to bring her down a notch, one of the things you're trying to do is point out the fact, I would say, that big energy companies own her. Electronics companies, banks, they have her in their pocket. Okay? And here's the thing, do you think most people access this information? No, but it's all public record. And you can look up any member of Congress and their personal assets. Now, she's on the low end of the totem pole. Okay, $2 million as a net worth is a lot of money. It's way more than what I'm worth. But let's look up, say, who's somebody we could look up? Nancy Pelosi. Oh, let's take a look at her profile. Oh, her net worth is a little bit higher. She's somewhere in the neighborhood of $114 million. That's what she's worth. That'll get you out of town. She has, let's check out her assets. Oh, they could be as high as 256 million. Oh, Apple. She has apparently potentially $25 million worth of Apple, Visa, lobbies. She's definitely connected to their lobbyists and they contribute to her campaign. Disney, how about that? Look at all these companies that she owns stock in or she owns, has some type of connection to. Oh, let's take a look at liabilities. This is what she owes to other people. Okay. She has 11 liabilities, meaning outstanding loans. She has a mortgage on K Street, right, with Bank of America. What is it? That is in Washington, D.C., so that's the place she's going to stay. And the value of that, depending on the interest rate, we're talking about some serious cash there in the millions of dollars. She has a line of credit established there too for that same address. She has a brokerage margin account, which means City National Securities. She can borrow a significant amount of money to invest. I mean, she's got a lot of money out there in loans and mortgages. A mortgage on this place in St. Helena, California, a mortgage on San Francisco at this address, another one in San Francisco, and another one. That's multiple houses for Nancy Pelosi just in California. In theory, you could, but I would say that there's also Capitol Police that escort her constantly where she's going. And she probably lives in a gated community. We would stick out there. Okay. These are what your members of Congress essentially they are making a crap ton of money. All right. Now, they don't spend as much time working as the average American. They're independently wealthy when they get in here. Now, here's what's concerning. What do you think the average wealth of a lot of members of Congress is like when they leave office? Oh, yes, it goes up. Do you think Nancy Pelosi was always worth 114 million? Nope. All right. It definitely goes up. Okay. Let's talk about diversity in Congress as well. Do you think that the members of Congress reflect the overall percentage of men and women in the American public and the racial makeup of America? Definitely not. What percentage of the country of American citizens are women? 51, actually. Y'all like it's like y'all know to perpetuate a little more of the women. All right. 51% of the country women. What percentage of Congress are women? Not a bad guess. It's 20 to 25 is usually where it fluctuates. This is the most gender-wise, I think the most women we've ever had. And they still only make up a quarter of the lawmaking body. Fun fact, 6 years ago, they had to expand the women's restroom in outside the Senate chamber because it only had like 2 stalls. And there are more women getting voted into the Senate. And so they were like, we need more stalls. Like men have like 10 stalls in their bathroom. Gosh. All right. Racial diversity. America is like 73% white, 14% black, 12% Hispanic, and then the other few percentage points are just made up of others. Do you think that gets reflected in Congress? Nope. All right. So what are we saying? Who is making the laws in this country? White males who, and by the way, are they generally younger or older? Older. Older white males who have a lot of money, who are independently wealthy, and they probably don't look and act much like us. Right? How do you think that plays with most Americans? What do you think if when they ask the question, when they do polling, do you approve or disapprove of the way that Congress is doing their job? What do you think Congress's approval ratings like? Is what? It's very low. It is traditionally very low because getting Congress to all act together in one field, and it's like, why do we keep voting for these bums? Right? Because remember, hang on, let me go back and show you the percentage. These are the percentage, and this trend. I don't even have to update this map. 2002 is as far as this goes, but this is the incumbents who win re-election. Look in the House; it's like over 95%. They keep winning. Senators, it fluctuates year to year depending on what's going on in the Senate, but you can usually bet there's like an 80 to 90% chance you're going to get reelected. Why is it that people like if overall Congress people are like, God, this doesn't really represent us. It's a bunch of old white lawyers who and doctors who are making all the laws, and they're men, and we think Congress as a whole sucks. But why do they keep getting reelected then? It is, but like, don't people recognize that maybe it's time for a change? You're on the right track. Exactly. We never think it's our guy who's effing things up. Okay? We're like, it's always so and so down the street. Why do they got to make problems, Elena? Right? We always think it's somebody else. I got to get rid of that Mitch McConnell from Kentucky. It'll solve everything. Get rid of Nancy Pelosi and all her liberal friends. Right? Congress is kind of jacked up. Speaking of those people, leadership in Congress. Oh man, and you're going to love this. You're actually, I take it back. You're probably going to get pretty angry when you realize how much power Nancy Pelosi and like other leadership positions have. Okay, let's talk about leadership in the House first. The most powerful position in the House of Representatives is undoubtedly the Speaker of the House. And yes, you have to know who the Speaker of the House is. I'm going to ask you on a test who the Speaker is. It's Nancy Pelosi. Democrats love her because she's really liberal and she's good at getting legislation passed that benefits her party. Republicans hate her because she's really liberal and good at getting legislation passed that helps her party. Ah, Nancy. Okay. Incidentally, she's the first and only woman to be Speaker of the House, and she's got a lot of power. Okay. There's a couple things that she can do. Collins, do you have a question? Yes, we'll talk about that, about how she gets this position, and there's a unique way they do that. Okay? On the floor, the Speaker of the House gets to determine who talks during debate and for how long. She gets to determine who talks and for how long. And remember, what's debate like in the House of Representatives? Short, limited. So that's a big deal. If we have a bill and I'm the Speaker and I'm like, there's only 5 minutes of debate, and Kaiser, I'm going to give her 2 of them. Well, that's pretty significant. It's 40% of the debate time goes to one person. What do you want? Tell your little peons not to come back and bother us. All right. Now, sorry about that. The interruption here. Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, she gets to determine who talks and for how long, and that's a big deal. Okay. And you'll hear him say, well, the senator or the congresswoman from so-and-so is recognized for 2 minutes. Congressman, this person from Ohio, recognized for 1 minute. All right. You get to determine that. And look, you have to let the other party talk on particular bills, But do you think that sometimes that perhaps the speaker might be petty and say things like, you know what, Collins is always causing me problems, and I'm going to let somebody from her party speak, but it sure as heck isn't going to be her. Or if I know that Elena could potentially ruin a bill if I let her talk, I'm like, she's too smart. We can't. She might actually sway people's votes. Right? I'm not letting you talk, Elena. You'll ruin it. Okay? So that's powerful, but it's not the only thing. All right? That's nothing compared to the real power that Nancy Pelosi has as Speaker of the House. Other than on the floor, she can do several things. One of them, she controls the overall agenda for the House. While the House is in session, like for the next 3 months, the House is in session, she controls what bills they're going to deal with first and what's going to have to wait till the end of the line. Right? What bills do you think she's likely to put up front that we need to take care of now? The ones she likes and that would benefit her party. Right now, a Democrat is in office in the White House. Democrats have control of the House and the Senate. And you better believe she's going to be looking, she and the other leaders from the Democratic Party are going to be having a nice powwow about what bills they want to get passed. One of them that's at the top of the line, COVID relief. Right? Democrats want a bill that spends $1.9 trillion in COVID relief. And Republicans said, we have a counteroffer that would spend $600 billion in COVID relief. And I think Democrats looked at him and were like, that's only a third of what we wanted to spend, and we have the votes. All right. So she determines the overall agenda. Here's what we're going to get done at the beginning, and if we have time at the end, we'll get to other stuff. Okay. Second thing she does, she controls the daily agenda, including the scheduling of votes. She controls the daily agenda, including the scheduling of votes. Nancy Pelosi will get to say when that bill on COVID relief gets to come to the floor for a debate and a vote. And look, there's some other pettiness you can do with that too. Let's say that I'm the speaker and I know that Tama just flew home to her district in California to meet with some constituents about some issues, and I schedule a vote for the day like tomorrow while she's in California. What does she have to do? She's either going to have to fly back or miss the vote. Right? And she's secretly really annoyed at me for that, but I'm like, hey, perk of being the speaker. I get to schedule when the votes happen. Right? And over here, Kaylee's like, Scalise, I have a meeting with some members of my committee scheduled for today. And I'm like, well, you can skip your committee meeting and come to the vote, or your vote just won't count. Oof. All right. Ooh. All right. So she gets to schedule the overall agenda, the daily agenda. The speaker also gets to determine committee chairs and committee assignments. They get to determine committee chairs and committee assignments. Mia Billups has been a good, loyal party member. I'm going to reward her and put her on the committees she asked for. Because I know when we're in a jam, she always votes with the party. And she always shows up at events, and daggone it, she offers helpful advice, and she doesn't take days off. Mia will get the committee position she wants. Other people, like Armstrong, though, they don't always vote the way the party wants them to on key bills. Right? You're going to find yourself on a committee that's really not that great. I know. Good luck helping your constituents. Think of this for a second. You know what's really cool? Let's say that Armstrong is from New York City, okay? And she represents a congressional district there, and I put her on the committee for agriculture. Can she really do anything to help her people in New York City? The only agriculture there is street agriculture, if you know what I'm saying. Drugs, marijuana, you know what I'm saying? Street agriculture. All right. Nancy Pelosi, she has a lot of power. She gets to determine committee assignments and committee chairs, right? And if somebody's been bugging the crap out of you, you can kick them off one. Oh, you were the committee chair last time, Charlie, and you kept complaining about how you didn't have enough authority. Let's see how you do when you're not committee chair of any committee. Right? That, and look, the pettiness abounds. I love it. Okay? Now, you mentioned this, Collins. How do you determine who gets to be the speaker? And the answer is this. Every 2 years, they hold a vote. All members of the House vote on the speaker. Now, here's the thing, when you vote on the speaker, all Democrats go into that vote knowing that the party wants them to choose Nancy Pelosi. So since they have a majority right now, they know that they're going to win. Now, what happens if, say, like, I'm the Speaker of the House and everybody in my party votes for me except like 3 people? What am I going to do to those 3 people when I win Speaker anyway? Oh, I'm going to punish them. Okay. Not only are you going to like freeze them out of speaking, I'm going to put them on crappy committees. What happens when they put their name on a bill as a sponsor and they want their legislation to get passed? Shot down. Even if it's the best idea, I'm going to be like, hey, you know what? That bill ain't going nowhere. All right. I call up one of my committee chairs and I'm like, hey, don't let that bill go anywhere. All right. Kill it. Right. And we love to kill bills. Right. There is a huge amount of pettiness that goes on. But Nancy Pelosi also has to keep people in line. And you have to remember that the party's trying to accomplish something. And there's no margin for people who, no margin for error when people deviate from what the party wants. Okay. Nancy Pelosi's job as House Speaker is important, but she's got help. Okay. The right hand person of the Speaker is the majority party leader. Okay. Nancy Pelosi has a right arm, a right hand, so to speak. The majority leader, you don't need to remember his name, but people always ask and they always want to see a picture. It's Steny Hoyer. Oh, Steny. He looks like a Steny if there ever was one. Okay. Steny Hoyer is the majority leader. The majority party leader in the House, they help give advice to the Speaker. They help make leadership decisions. And they negotiate with the other party. Right? They help make leadership positions, make choices on leadership positions. They give advice to the Speaker. And they negotiate with the minority party. So one of the things Steny Hoyer will be doing is talking to Republicans in the House and saying, hey, what are some bills that we can agree on, some things that we think would be good for America? And Democrats know that they've got more votes, but when you're the minority party, you can make things difficult. You can slow down the process in a lot of ways and just be annoying AF, as you kids would say. So it's like, if you're the majority, you can get your laws passed that you want, but you're not going to get as many passed because they'll do everything they can to gum up the works. Right? That pettiness extends 2 ways. Okay. Now, Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker, Steny Hoyer is the majority leader. There's a minority party leader. Okay. The minority party leader right now is this gentleman, Kevin McCarthy from California. And McCarthy is about as a loyal Republican as you can get. Right? And his job is to try to work with the majority party and negotiate out things that they can do. Like, for example, right now, he and Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer are going to have a sit down about the COVID relief bill. Democrats want 1.9 trillion in spending. Republicans want 600 billion. They're a long ways apart. So they got to figure out, where can we meet in the middle on this? Or Democrats are like, okay, we could just stick it to you. And Republicans are like, all right, we'll just slow down the process and we'll make people wait longer. And then they'll get angry, all right, because people want their checks, among other things. They do. California has, well, yeah, remember, there's a lot of House seats in California. So it's like they got, somewhere in the neighborhood of 13% of the representatives. So there's a good chance they're going to get leadership positions. Okay. Both parties also have what we call party whips. When a problem comes along, you must whip it. Okay. We'll talk about the whips in a second, but one thing I do want to show you that sometimes people aren't aware of, this is the inside of the House of Representatives chamber. And you see this is where the Speaker is. They get these nice marble columns, Greek Ionic columns in the background. It's very ornate. Up here is a mark where they've updated it since this picture, but you have records of how everybody votes on a particular bill. That's all public records. All right. And so if you vote against the party too many times, they know to punish you. All right. And so you've got this ornate looking place. You don't need to remember the makeup, the number, but right now the House is controlled by Democrats. It's a margin, a slim margin, but it's still a majority. And every 2 years, when they vote in new House members or new Senate members, it's a new Congress. And so in 2022, when they vote in a new representative, it'd be the 118th Congress. This is the 117th Congress. The vacancies, a couple people who were in House seats got appointed to some executive positions, and some of them filled some Senate seats, and so they're going to have to get appointed or replaced. What they do is they usually have states have special elections for those, and so you'll see those occur in the not too distant future. But they don't like those are. I think those three were heavily Democratic districts, so a Democrat's probably going to win again. Okay. Something else that's relevant: these party whips. Party whips have two main jobs. One, counting votes. Two, enforcing party discipline. Your job as a party whip is to count the votes and enforce party discipline. Mia, I think you'd be an excellent party whip, right? So let's say we're the Democrats. I am the speaker, and Kaiser over there is my majority leader. You're going to meet with us, and I'm like, we have the COVID relief bill, and out of the 221 Democrats, I need to know how many people are solid yeses, who's on the fence, and who's against us in our party. And I need those numbers from you, okay? If you come back and you're like, Scalise, we got 210 definite yeses. We got of the other 11, I'd say 7 of them are leaning our way, and there's 4 of them that are against us. So what we need to do is we need to get those people on board, all right? So party discipline, how do we get them to vote yes? You're the party whip. Your job is to convince them, all right? And when we send the party whip to go convince them to vote yes, how do you start out? What do you do? Yeah, you start out friendly, okay? We incentivize them voting yes, okay? So let's say over here, Fry is one of our people that we need to vote yes. What could we offer Fry to make her vote yes? Food won't do it. We don't bribe people with money. Pork barrel legislation. Fry's like, look, my home district's really been struggling lately. And you know what? I know that they are going to build a new national museum, and daggone it, I want it in my home district. And I'm like, all right, Fry, but this is going to buy not just a yes vote on this, but you're going to be loyal the next 5,000 or 6,000 votes. Okay? And Fry's like, don't worry, I can be a good loyal party member. All right? So we put in a piece of text in the legislation, some pork barrel legislation, where Fry and her home district would benefit from that. Okay? We could promise to support some of the bills that she wants for the next session. We can do a lot of things, but what happens if we try to incentivize her and it doesn't work? What happens if we go to Fry and she says, I don't care what you offer me, I'm not voting yes? What do we start doing then? How do you punish people? What is it? We have to let them vote. What is it? Number one, we can just refuse to recognize her on the floor. She won't get to debate or bring up any points. What else could we do? Take her off committees. Right? That's been done before. Or put her on really crappy ones. Be like, look, Fry, if you ever want to do anything in the party and have a leadership position, you better vote yes. And you're like, I don't care. And I'm like, all right. What we can do is we can also threaten to run a candidate against her in her next election. Or we could withhold our party support. We could not advance your bills. That would go a long way too. That's the job of the party whip. Count the votes, see who needs help, who needs a little extra push. Or how about this? You remember last year, Fry, when the party, you got arrested with a trunk full of cocaine, and we helped cover it up. That'd be a shame if it hit the newspapers. Do you think shady stuff like that gets people threatened? Oh yeah, absolutely. All right. As party whip, that's your job, enforcing party discipline. All right. And Mia's like, I can be really nice, but if I have to, I will threaten to choke you out. Okay. Now, that's a good place for us to stop at the moment. We'll talk about the Rules Committee mañana and go with some other